Hi Ben, just to continue our recordings, I'd like to now go into a chapter of your actual mediumship and how it works. Obviously, you can see in here. Now, most people seem to be able to see within the third eye, but it's more within the third eye, and the people that hear seem to hear internally. Now, yours is obviously physical visions and obviously physical hearing. How does that make you feel, and has it changed? Do you feel it's changing?
I feel it's always changing
Okay.
because I know you've described it, I see and what you do and hear what you do, but it's not all the time. You know, it's not all the time. It can be half and half, or it can be, most of the time one way, and again the other time. It all depends on the day, the communication. There's lots of different factors: who you're communicating to, who you're communicating with, and there's lots of things to come into it. It's a challenge every day. It's a challenge to make the connection, make the right connection, and to make sure you prepare yourself in the right and proper way when you're talking to the spirit world, and then you hopefully, fingers crossed, toes crossed, and everything else crossed, that the communication is good and proper. And it comes just with learning, just, with time, with the, change, I think, is the best way I can describe it is like probably a scout when he's getting his badges. And when he discussed it with me, my guide, he said to me that there was one evening of, I was on the platform walking, and I could see everything, hear everything. The spirit was standing beside the people, and it was fantastic. And the next evening I thought I was going to walk the exact same, and it was completely different. And I said, well, why can't I walk like that again? And he said, no, you've learned that now. That's your little badge, and off you go, and you have to learn. So basically you have to learn all the disciplines to master them all. But I think again it's just a work in progress.
So when you say disciplined, do you mean the opening, the closing?
I think everything with it. It's been a long process that to get me where I am. Personally, I can only speak about myself, but they've shown me lots of things and what to do, and I've got a more or less a ritual that I go through every day to do it. And especially when I walk, I have a ritual that I go through every day, and it's an opening up and a closing down process and connecting, and that's how I do it. Other people say, well, I flick my fingers and I'm open. Great, but I just don't do it like that. I do it my way. I'm comfortable with the way I do it. It's a process I do, and I'm quite happy to go through that process, and it works for me.
So obviously you've got this wonderful connection. When you're actually working with the general public, we both know that people come for specific readings to hear certain things and actually want to communicate with certain people. Now, I have heard some mediums say, who do you want to speak to? Mm-hmm. You know what I'm going to say here, yes. Don't you? Who do you want to speak to? And then they seem to say, hey presto, and they've got that spirit. In your view, do you believe these mediums can do that?
In my view, I'm not going to question another medium, but I will say this. I say to the people that I read for, it's not like a telephone service that you pick it up and you dial a number and you say, right, hey, I can talk to anyone you like, Otherwise, why couldn't I communicate with Elvis, Jesus, whoever? Absolutely. Whoever the case may be. Just pick someone from the past, Winston Churchill, a Spitfire pilot, or whoever the case may be, It just doesn't come like that, Again, the person that you're communicating to, you try to give them as much evidence as possible for the person that's coming through. Now, it may be a relative, hopefully, that they know, or a friend that they may know. And sometimes they will not know the person, but that person may be trying to bring somebody else through in that reading. So you just have to persevere with it and try to bring as much communication about that person as possible.
do you explain, because obviously people these days are quite green, we know that they actually want to hear certain things, so therefore when you get a communicator that, I find it sometimes difficult when uncle whoever, fifth removed, come through and doesn't really say anything, because obviously, as we know, it's about the communicator, it's about the evidence, but it's also about the message.
Yes.
Do you find that is the way that you work?
Again, it all depends on who I'm communicating to. So, i.e., Uncle Joe, fifth removed uncle, and stuff like that. If he's coming through and the person I'm reading for doesn't really remember them but knows of them, well, I'll say to Uncle Joe, lovely to have you here, great, you can tell me a small bit about yourself, but you're past, there's not really a lot we can do for you, and I don't mean to be rude with that, but how are you going to help this person that's sitting in front of me?
Wonderful, Ben. It's lovely, to hear you say that, actually.
Because Uncle Joe knows what's going on, he knows what's happening, but the person that are sitting in front of me, what's going on with them, what's going on in their life, how can they be helped? If they're on a path that they shouldn't be on, or if they need help in some way, or a little bit of guidance and stuff like that. And then it's all about, for me, it's all about the person who's sitting in front of you. You know, great, it's lovely that Uncle Joe's came through, or whoever the case may be, and it's wonderful. But that doesn't really help the person. So if I sat there and described Uncle Joe for 20, 25 minutes, and you know, it's all wonderful and he's all great, and I say, okay, now bye. Where was the message? What was?
That's exactly it. Exactly.
How are they going to really find out? You know, what was Uncle Joe doing? Was he just coming in to say hello? He could have said, hello, I'm Uncle Joe, removed 5 times. That's the message.
Because the hardest thing is that obviously you see and hear and sense what you get, but the person doesn't see and hear what you're getting. So that communication obviously has to be at the highest level. Going through to the communication side, obviously people come through with different ways of communicating.
Absolutely.
How do you feel with your communicators in the respect of the messages? Are there times that you will consider what the next person is to hear? Because obviously sometimes things are said that maybe shouldn't be told to the person in front.
Absolutely. If they say to me something, I know people say, well, it just should come out, it just should flow out. But again, you don't know what that person is. So if they're swearing constantly at me in the spirit world, and I've got a little old lady in front of me, I'm not going to swear at her.
Lovely.
If it may be the case that I feel the need, that they need a kick up the backside, you know, I will word it in a way that, you know, they're telling you that you need a kick up the backside to move forward, or try to pull yourself out of this hole that you find yourself in, or whatever the case may be. But I am very diplomatic with my choice of words. I know a lot of people who know me may say no, but when I read...
Still Ben though.
Yes, absolutely,
Quite right
absolutely. But when I read, I try to do it with a passion, because I love it. I try to do it with as much compassion as well, because obviously you are trying to help someone in some shape or form, and as long as you can try to do that to the best of your ability, then, you know, sometimes you'll get a person who sit there and saying no, 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 and because they wanted to hear from Uncle Tom, fourth removed.
Yes, yes.
But the message is still the same, you know, and then you have to try to, you know, be abrupt, and maybe it's wrong, but ultimately you're working for the spirit world.
See, at least you're honest in the respect that you're not trying to be schmoozy. You are trying to get the message across. Now, as a person that is the medium, do you find it frustrating sometimes, not just with the people that obviously come for the readings, but trying to relay the messages from the spirit world? Does it ever get confusing for you what they're trying to say? Does it come in too fast? Do you question your gatekeepers if they're not doing their jobs?
Again, it all depends on which person you're communicating to. You can have, you know, I heard all sorts of rumours like, oh, you can't really talk to somebody if they're passed over, they have to be dead 6 months, or I've heard 12 months, and I've heard different stuff, and I've heard this and I've that. And again, that may be the case and for some people, but I haven't found that myself. I've found it in a way that, you know, I've communicated with people that haven't been dead that long, people that haven't been buried.
That's the quickest way, I think, personally.
Yeah, they haven't even been buried. And again, I spoke to young people who haven't been dead that long, and the communication skills was really good, really powerful messages. And then again, I spoke to people who've been dead a long time, and it was tough going, hard work. But, you know, you just have to persevere and keep going and try to give the best messages or possible messages that you can. And it's all about, you try to thank every spirit person after all the readings that you've done, completed that day, or if it's only one, or if you're on platform, whatever the case may be, you thank them. Because at the end of the day, no spirits, no readings, no communication. That's it, it's over. So I feel as if that I do try my best. I maybe haven't always in the past, but again, I've had to learn them lessons, I've had to go through them experiences, I've had to experience, and I've experienced a lot. And to all would-be mediums out there who thinks, oh, I hear this is the favourite thing, oh, I'd love to do what you do. And I said to myself, would they really?
I have to agree with you because, you know, as most people know, I do the healing, etc. But when you're dealing with the next person to try and get them in a good place, it can be quite pressurising because they need so much from us, whether it's mentally, emotionally, physically or spiritually. So yeah, I really get where you're coming from. It's a huge responsibility. Going on to responsibility, obviously people come to you to hear various things. So do you consider what they need to hear in the respect that some people say your relationship's going to end or you're going to die and all these terrible things, and I have picked up the pieces. Would the spirit world, in your view, come through? Because I class you as a spirit medium, not a psychic, and I'm sure we can cover that later, because some people will actually turn around and say, no, I don't want to talk to the dead ones, I want to know about me. So yeah. I'm sure you get that. But going back to the spirit world, do you feel the spirit world would actually come through and give that sort of information?
They, you know, some people believe they do. You know, I have to say, you know, I've heard people saying that, you know, they've predicted, and on some occasions have been right, have been correct. You know, they've predicted deaths, and they've predicted, you know, you're going to fall pregnant when you're least expected and stuff like this. But again, it's down to, would you like to hear that?
No.
Exactly. So it's, again, you have to use a bit of decorum and see, would you say to yourself, you're delivering a message, would you like to really sit there and hear, you know, somebody close to you is going to pass? Because if the person who's communicating, i.e. the medium or psychic, says that message, they've got to, from my view, take an understanding that they've changed that person's life forever.
Exactly.
So they've got to be really, really careful what they say.
Do you believe that, I do, but you know, do you believe that when someone sets someone down the wrong pathway, the medium will enter into karma?
Absolutely, absolutely. You know, absolutely, I do. You know, and I've had karma bite me many times, and I'm sure karma will bite me many more times. But it's a journey. It's a journey of learning and trying to learn all the time. And by no way, shapes, or means do I know everything, and I don't claim to know everything, because I don't. as I say, as long as I'm here on this airplane, I'll still learn, and I'll try to learn all the time. I know I'm not perfect, but again, I don't claim to be perfect. I'm far from it. If you met me during the day walking down the street, some people cross the road, and you know, they would definitely not think I'm a medium, which I like. I don't mind.
Yeah,
as well.
no, I like that about you.
Yeah, I don't mind that.
Salt of the earth, as they would
That
say.
gives me a bit of a buzz, but you know, karma is there to come back and bite us when we least expect it, and
especially if you participate in actually adding to it by what you say to the next person.
Absolutely. I think mediums have a responsibility. Huge responsibility. If you're given a message from one of their loved ones, like especially to a vulnerable parent who's lost a child, or somebody, a husband who's lost a wife, or vice versa, a wife who's lost a husband, and you're communicating, or you say to somebody, your dad's going to pass in 6 months. You've changed their lives.
Do you feel as well that obviously you're very blessed that you can see, hear, sense, and you clearly work with the spirit world, you clearly prove who the communicator is, the evidence and the message, and at the end of it people walk out feeling uplifted?
I try.
Well, of course, I know it's not an easy job, but obviously you do try. Now, some mediums I've seen, and this is not knocking any mediums by any shape or form, do they always really understand how they're working? Because a lot of people tend to, I've got a mother here, and then give a message. Now, do you really feel that they're actually getting that connection?
Again, the way I won't criticise another medium, because obviously I'm one myself. They have to do what they feel is right. Personally, the way I was developed and the way I'm developing is, you're asked for, alright, you've your mother here, and the person I sit with, he'll say to me, prove it.
Yeah.
Prove it. Right, it's my mother. Okay. And then you try to go into message, and he'll stop you and he'll say, no, you've got my mother.
Yeah.
What does she look like? What was her demeanour? How did she do things? What did she say? What? And you're very careful then, because you're looking for that link all the time. Is right, this is his mother. I can't say that because what does she look like? What is this? What's that? And then it pushes you all the time to know that there's somebody behind you saying, well, prove it. Prove it. Prove that I'm mother.
Isn't it funny? I think a lot of people will ask this, why can't Spirit simply come through and say, my name is, and I lived in this road?
Again, I've had that question asked many times, and I would probably get asked many more times again. As I said to you before, previously, there was one night and one night only when I saw Spirit and heard them all in the same breath, and the film I suppose you could point it out to would be Sixth Sense, when you saw and you heard Bruce Willis talking all the time, and it was clear communication with the Spirit, and crystal clear. Everything was so clear, his vividness, everything. But he said to you, it's a learning process. It's a learning process for us, and it's also a learning process for them. So getting back to your question is, I suppose the more we try to communicate with them, the clearer the communication will be. But it's a work in progress. It's like if you're a snooker player and you've won the world championship and you're not playing that championship till next May, and you don't practice and practice and practice, when you come to compete in that championship again the following year, how far do you think you're going to get? Not very.
Exactly.
So again, you have to try to communicate to try to get as much evidence and names and dates and places as you can. So the more you do it, hopefully the better you get.
That's excellent, Ben. Thank you very much indeed. Thank you.